Hello everybody, thank you for coming. My name is Lou Vaughan-Edmonds. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing at Navitas, and I have a 15-minute presentation to discuss living well off the grid. We're talking about microgrids, and we're talking about wide bandgap, that's gallium nitride and silicon carbide, this new revolutionary next generation semiconductor devices which you can see all around our booth today, and we'll talk about the benefits of wide bandgap. So let's go to the next slide. So as everyone's aware, there's been some serious climate change issues over the last weeks. A lot of flights have been cancelled, and what we're seeing now, every year we're seeing an increase in power outages, over 1,500 power outages since 2000. 83% of those are weather related, and we're seeing more and more prominent cases of these outages from California to Texas to Maine. It's becoming worse, and this is where we talk about off the grid and how we can be independent of outages and these breakdowns. So a little example from Texas. Last year in February, about 4.5 million people were out of power for several days. I think 250 people died because of this, $130 billion worth of property damage just because of these outages. And this graph shows, it's actually showing from the Texas power grid. On the X and the Y axes, you see the time. Here is in minutes and seconds, and on the Y you can see hertz, which is frequency. So when you plug your adapter into the wall, you will usually get 110 volts, and it's at 60 hertz or 50 hertz. In this case, it's 60 hertz. Now, if that frequency shifts and it goes below 59.4 hertz, that's when outages happen. And that's how the power grid kind of look at all of this. So what we can see is what happens to frequency at 59.9. As it starts to come down, the power grid try to boost it up again, and they stuck 1,000 megawatts in here. It still kept going down. They stuck an extra 3,000 megawatts. And in that span of 4.5 minutes, the power went completely down. And this has serious repercussions on the grid and on residential properties. Now, if we look at all the electricity generated in the US, on the left, you can see we're looking 10 years prior, we're looking forecast into 2050. You can see coal comes down significantly, and you can see renewables are driving up significantly. And on the right-hand side, you can see that breakdown of a renewable energy electricity generation. In the yellow, the solar is the main growth. So we see solar panels becoming a big drive factor for renewable energies, and also wind energy. Now, if we look at solar, the problem is with solar is when the electricity is generated. So this graph is called the duck curve, and we see the amount of electricity demanded throughout the day. So here you can see when you wake up, there's a peak demand of electricity required. During the day, everyone goes to work, so you don't really need it. And at night time, you see the peak happening again. Now, the problem is with solar is that when the sun comes about 9 a.m., the maximum electricity generated in solar is about midday, and that is when you don't need that much electricity. So the question is, what do you do with that unwanted energy? And this is the trend now in new households and throughout the ecosystem, is this energy storage or a microgrid ecosystem. So a microgrid is a self-sustained energy system. It operates independently from the grid, and it contains its own energy source. So for this example, we're using the solar. The solar panels absorb the light, create electricity, It comes down to this red box, which is a solar inverter. You can see one on the other side of this booth. And then this sends into this battery energy storage system. And then it holds the energy there until you come home and you require that. And what that does is it reduces your electricity bills because you're storing the energy during the day and you're using it at nighttime when there's peak costs involved. And also, if the grid goes down, then that's your backup. Additionally, people with electric vehicles, there's a trend now for EVs. EVs are a big battery. There's a bi-directional solution, so you use your car as a battery backup for the house as well. So that's a trend we see today. And if we look at the battery system, it's called the Battery Energy Storage System, a BESS. And we can just see how it all works, right? So the solar panel absorbs the light, takes the electricity from DC, puts it into an inverter, which converts it into AC mains, 110 volts or 230, then sends it to the gateway. And the gateway is the brains behind it all and determines, okay, where is your refrigerator going to get its electricity from? Is it going to get it from the battery storage? Is it going to get it from the grid? Is it going to get it from the solar directly? And the gateway determines what it's going to do. If the grid goes down, then it'll take the energy from the battery into your loads. Alternatively, you can just take it direct from the solar. So inside a battery energy storage system, you can see one on the other side of this booth. It's basically a huge battery bank. And then what you need is to optimize that charge and store that energy, so you have a battery management system, an ECU, and an inverter which converts that energy from the solar inverter into the battery. Right, and this is where we talk about wide bandgap. So in order to store the battery energy, to convert energy, you need semiconductors and you need power semiconductors. And traditionally, for the last 50 to 80 years, silicon has been used. And now what we have are wide bandgap devices, wide bandgap semiconductors, which are replacing silicon. And we call them compound semiconductors because they consist of two components. For one we call GaN, it's gallium nitride, it's gallium and nitrogen mixed together. And the other one is silicon carbide, which is silicon and carbon. And these are wide bandgap devices, so they're superior in performance and they're higher in efficiency. They can switch up to 20 times faster, which enables your passives to be reduced, and you can shrink your system by up to 3 times. The energy savings are up to 40%, and this is key for electric vehicles. That's why everyone's going to silicon carbide, because you can increase your mileage range, because you waste less energy. Because of this high frequency, you can increase your high power density. With the GaN, you can charge your phones 3 times faster in the same size. And additionally, the lower system cost, which is always a key driver. Another part of what we do at Navitas, we do the GaN, we do the silicon carbide. For the GaN-related devices, integration's key. GaN is a very fast-switching device. It has a very sensitive gate. So what we do is we put the driver monolithically integrated next to the power switch, and this enables for very high switching, very high efficiency, and very high reliability. You can see around the booth different types of chargers which charge faster. Oh, I'm probably going to You can see here on the left, I'm not going over the GaN versus silicon solutions. On that right, you can see that large PCB. Thanks, Grace. You see that's an 8K LCD power board, so that powers up the screen. On the right, that's silicon. The green one, the smaller version, that's GaN. For data centers in the middle, you can see that large silver box. The one on top of it, that's the GaN equivalent. So you can see the size reduction. That has also higher efficiency improvements. So you can see now wide bandgap is a really integrating into the market and becoming widely accepted. Our GaN devices have been designed for reliability, we've been tested for reliability, and they've been characterized for reliability. So our GaN devices are solid. We've sold over 70 million pieces, 5.8 billion hours of field testing. Now, in applications like solar and electric vehicles and data center, there's a very high demand on reliability and also on lifetime. And we are the only company to offer a 20-year warranty for our GaN products. We're very confident of our quality, and this also helps our end customers designing with that 20-year requirement. A quick look at microinverters. We've got a microinverter on the other side of the booth. A microinverter is a few hundred watts inverter which sits on the back of a panel, so just one panel. It's usually used in residential applications, and you can see it on the other side. This is the actual microinverter, but by using GaN, you can shrink the size up to 50%. You can increase the frequency, and from a cost point of view, it's almost a 25% saving. So you can see Enphase here showing this silicon to GaN evolution. Another product we offer is silicon carbide. We recently acquired a company called GeneSiC. They've got 20 years of pioneering silicon carbide. These guys are actually doing like 6.5 kV, 15 kV, 3.3 kV, and now they're coming down to like the 1200 volts and the 650 volts. So GeneSiC has been a pioneer for 20 years. They have technologies like trench-assisted planar gate, monolithically integrated diode MOSFETs, all this pretty clever stuff. Quality, reliability is really key for GeneSiC devices. Quick example, we took the GeneSiC device and we stuck it on this board, and then we used a competitor device. We switched it the same gate drive, everything the same. And you can see the difference on the bottom right from a thermal image. The GeneSiC devices actually are 25 degrees cooler. So that translates as 3 times longer life when you do reliability calculations. So it's significantly better. It's tested for reliability and quality. It's 3 times stronger on avalanche testing. For threshold voltages, it's very tight, which is ideal for paralleling and modules, high power. And also, it's been built with a long short circuit withstand time, up to 30% better than the leading edge competition. I want to show you a quick example of where the silicon carbide is used. It's on the other side of the booth as well. You can see this Catec Stecker solar inverter. It's a 5 kilowatt solar inverter. It uses the GeneSiC devices in there, switches around 65 kilohertz. It's a bi-directional boost. And you can see here the block diagram of how it works. The solar panel goes in, DC voltage, it gets boosted up, and then it gets chopped and converted into an AC mains output, which then either powers the AC loads or goes to the gateway. Another example, we've got the GaN OBC, which is on the other side of the booth too. That's a 6.6 kilowatt using GaN and silicon carbide. A very high power density, which can provide energy savings on the battery up to 10%, which is a big deal for EVs. So please go and see that. And then my last slide is to show that by using GaN and SiC, just from the market point of view, if we look at the market potential, we're looking at almost $5 billion just for SiC and GaN in the future. And we work with all these customers from each region of the world to try and improve the off-grid system and battery energy management system. Okay, thank you very much for listening to me.
How does this work? How does this help electric vehicles?
How does this help electric vehicles? Right. Yes, so because it's a wide bandgap device, it's very efficient. It has a higher efficiency, so less losses or waste. And if you use it in an electric vehicle, what you can do is you increase your mileage range about 10%. If you have the Tesla as an example, you could actually reduce the battery size. So say you had 250 miles, you could either have 275 miles, or you keep it 250, reduce the battery size by $500. And that's a huge deal for electric vehicle manufacturers. So yeah, so silicon carbide's used a lot in that, but GaN also in the OBCs, and this new wide bandgap semiconductor is just, you can see all the benefits. It's very highly efficient device.